Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another event coverage video. This time we've got a few events to go over. The main one is going to be the Niagara Falls Regional that took place over the weekend. We're going to talk about a few other things though. But before we do, guys, if you're new to the channel, make sure to hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you can stay updated with all the awesome Dragon Ball Super content that I post here. If you're looking for a Dragon Ball Super community to get in touch with, make sure to check out the Discord in the description below. Amazing group of people, really helpful people. If you guys want to get caught up on some competitive content now that we are heading towards Nationals, make sure to check out the Patreon in the description below. Really helps channel out a lot, and you guys get a lot of good competitive content. And finally, guys, if you want to buy any of the cards I talk about here or build any of the decks I talk about, make sure to use my link to TCG Player in the description below. Really helps channel out a lot. Really appreciate every single one of you that watches these videos and does those things for me. You guys are all amazing. With that being said, we're getting into this video. So main event we have to talk about for the weekend, the Niagara Falls Regional. Lots of good competition there. But before we do talk about that, we're going to talk about two other events that took place over the weekend. The first event I want to talk about are the London preliminaries. It was called the London Big Prelim, and that event was won by no other than Vegeta Baby, Michael Silk, playing Vegeta Baby, a longtime subscriber of the channel. I know he's a big fan of the channel, and I am planning on having him on sometime this week to talk about the deck, so that's going to be awesome. I just love seeing Vegeta Baby do what it does best. Like, it's a really good deck if the pilot knows what to do with it. I think the deck lacks a little bit of consistency in terms of like the rest of the decks in the format. Like, sometimes you rely on the baby combo and sometimes you just can't quite get there because, you know, you can't draw the right cards, you don't have all the searchers. Sometimes the searchers aren't worth playing, you need other threats to diversify your deck. But with that being said, if you can see the right matchups and if you can pilot the deck in, you know, the right situations, make the right play lines every single time. And I know that Mike has been playing this deck for such a long time, like formats across formats. So congratulations to him. We're gonna have him on the channel later on this week to talk about it. The other event I want to talk about, Brisbane, Australia. That was won by Broly Apes. Now this is a blue-yellow variant of Broly Apes that my teammates, Richard Zapp in particular, have been working on for a long time. We're gonna talk about that a little bit more when we get into the Niagara event because that deck was very popular there. But with that being said, again, congratulations to that player winning the Brisbane event with blue-yellow Broly Apes. It's kind of two Broly Ape variants out there right now, so we're gonna talk about both of them getting into this top cut list. So starting off, we've got 6 Shenron in this top cut, so that's a crazy number to see for this leader. I mean, we've seen this leader dominate a few top cuts here and there. More recently though, you know, as more time has gone by, Shenron has become more and more dominant in these top cuts, and this is really one of the bigger events that it's taken over. Now, what's really interesting about this top cut spread is that 3 of these decks were Vegeta and 3 of them were Shenron ramp decks. Then we did have 1 Purunga ramp as well, so we'll kind of just lump those in there because they pretty much try to do the same thing. I've talked about it before. The leaders offer a little bit different utility in terms of game ending power. Obviously, you have the Shenron leader that offers a triple attack. You've got the Purunga leader that offers the extra revivability of a boss monster. You're not really going to see too much Purunga Shenjita, or Purungjita, I guess you can call it, because that ulti, that leader ulti, doesn't really apply to the game plan very much. So when we're talking about Shenjita, it's really just going to be the Shenron leader, but this deck got a huge boost in power from the new UI Goku that came out in the draft box. 4-drop counterplay, also counter attack. It can't be negated in any areas. You get to bounce back anything your opponent plays back to their hand, ignoring barrier. The main one, especially in the mirror match, is going to be Shenjita, or I guess Gogeta, and you know, they can't respond to it, they can't negate it, and then you draw a card afterwards. So they're going to tear your hand apart, they're going to reset you to 3, they're going to crit themselves a life, they're going to pay the cost by fusing, and then you're going to reset your hand to 3, but counterplay before that, then draw an additional card. So you really set their tempo back really hard. Like, they still set your tempo back, but you set their tempo back and you get a turn to live against Shenjita. Now, against like the ramp mirror match, if you want to call it a mirror match, it's a little bit different because, you know, they have other tools to bypass the UI Goku. Like, you know, you might bounce their Shenjita, but that's not too much different than like just chomp the tricks during it. I mean, it's a little bit better, but it costs you a lot more energy, and then they can typically go into the Kaioken next. But the UI Goku, I know, was huge over the weekend. It also helped against things like Toa, because in the past Shenjita has had a rough time dealing with Toa, because Toa, like I said before, deals with 1 boss monster per turn very, very well. But if you can deal with their Miras, get them off the board efficiently with UI Goku, bounce a few other key pieces, that helps out a lot there as well. The UI Goku, which is another fusion target for Shenjita, really helps out all around, all over the place. So that deck came in second at the event and also won the event. So a Shenjita finals. Really interesting how there was just a debate yesterday or a few days ago in the Dragon Ball community about how busted Gogeta is. Well, now it's got a first and second place right at this very event, so that's pretty interesting to note. Next up, we have 3 Toas in this top cut. A lot of people thought that Toa was really going to fall out of popularity with the new Janemba build, the tricolor Janemba build rising in popularity, but I really think that the rise of like Shenjita and Purunga Ramp have really made Janemba a hard deck to play in this format, because one of the cards that Janemba hates more than anything else, no matter what variant it is Gogeta 7. Just like getting pressured down to about 4 life or so, and then getting your hand ripped with Gogeta 7 really doesn't feel good at Janemba. You can't play that defense that you want to play because you don't have the resources to do it. So when this tricolor Janemba goes away, Toa can definitely come back in the ranks, especially if there's a lot of Shenjita in the room. Toa is going to have a good time. Now, I did mention that UI Goku helps with that Toa matchup a little bit, but I think it's still favored Toa's matchup just because of that ability to deal with the triple attack, deal with the critical, whatever it is you need to deal with as a Toa leader, only getting 1 boss monster dropped on you per turn. I think that helps out a great deal. And also, I think Toa has been able to adapt to the tricolor Janemba build. You know, before it was the case that Vegeta the Cruel really stuck it to Toa. You know, it dealt with the Vegeta time regulators, it poked with their hand, which Toa hates. But I mean, over time, if you can just adjust your play, you know, not burst as much with the leader, play more mirrors in your deck so you have more live options in case they get milled, I think you have a lot of ways to adapt to that Janemba meta, so to speak. Next up, 2 Broly in the top cut. Both of them were my teammates, Jose and Richard Zapp, so congratulations to them. Super duper proud. This was a homebrew of Richard Zapp's, where we talked about, you know, playing a blue yellow ape variant where you have the Bardock ape, the new Kid Goku ape, and then you have the 2-drop Goku Black Unforeseen Despair to pitch the Goku ape to the drop area. Just a really good deck overall, really intuitive. It's able to put on the aggro with the common one to play Bardock ape. It's able to sit back and play defense with the same card. Also, you have a ton of card advantage available to you with the Kid Goku Monkey. You have the Broly leader, obviously, to put on a ton of aggressive pressure. Also, help reset energy in a control situation. The deck just vibes and meshes really well. So this is a different variant of Broly apes than we're used to seeing. A lot of people have been tinkering with the red yellow variant where you arrival into play the King Vegeta, evolve the King ape over it. That's another good variant. It does very well, especially when you establish a board full of barrier blocker monkeys that are really threatening. But this is a slightly different variant, helps in a few different matchups. Very strong deck nonetheless. Again, congratulations to my teammates. Next up, we've got 1 red Gogeta in this top cut. Again, my teammate Frisco Foz, shouts out to you, man. Really cool to see you top of this deck. This is a new-ish version of the deck featuring the 1-drop Jiren from the draft box. This card says if you have 10 or more 10k battle cards in your drop area at the start of the next main phase, it gains double strike and dual attack, and then if your opponent wants to counter it, they have to pitch 2 cards from their hand. So really solid game ender. Like, I'm pretty sure the solid curve of this deck goes turn 4 Gogeta Fusion to, you know, clear board, ideally burn your opponent for some damage if they have a clear board, and then turn 5 you have the Jiren established from a previous turn. It's got barrier, so it's pretty hard to clear, and then you just go, you know, the dual attack, double strike, and obviously swing at the Gogeta if it's still established on the board. So pretty strong power play there. Definitely very cool to see 3 of my teammates in this top cut. A lot of good competition in this top cut, a lot of good competition in the room that didn't even make it. You know, shout out to Danny Hype, shout out to Jordan Beard. You know, they came to play, and it was a lot of good competition in the room. They unfortunately got knocked out, but that's no nick on their record. They're very good players and very accomplished players, but it just goes to show that the competition in the room was fierce. And even though it was a smaller tournament, I think it was about 60 players, it was a lot of good competition in the room. Top 16 was full of a lot of known players, so that was really cool to see. And then next up, rounding off this top cut, we have 1 King Vegeta. This is really cool to see. I don't think we've really seen King Vegeta top an event before, at least a premier event, and the kind of uprising of red in this format is really cool. Like, it's not like a huge uprising per se, it's only 2 out of the top 16, but this is also the first event that I think we've seen U6 Kaba miss top, and that's really interesting to see. I mean, the Kaba variant especially has topped pretty much every event I think I've covered for the past several events, and then also Broly U6, you know, making its way in and out here and there, also winning an event as well. So it's very interesting to see that deck, you know, not make the top, but with this amount of red that may have been in the room from the showing of Gogeta and King Vegeta, kind of makes sense that U6 would be in a bit of a rough spot. Now, I will say U6 Kaba has great matchups against Shenron, has great matchups against Toa, can struggle a bit against Janemba, and then depending on the variant of Broly, it's going to be a bit of a rough time. Like Broly apes, you can do a lot of damage to them before they set up their board if it's the red yellow version, but if it's the blue yellow version, it's a bit more of a defensive build. I can see that being a bit more tough. But going on back to King Vegeta, it's a very, very cool thing to see this deck top. I really like the concept of this deck a lot. Now, I can see this deck definitely struggling against Vegeta and Shenron ramp and Purunga ramp, which were the most dominant decks in the room, because you really don't have a way to aggro them that hard by like turn 4, turn 5. But against all the other decks, against Toa, Janemba, Broly, what have you, this deck is so cool because you get free board presence, whether it's with King Vegeta Dynasty, you know, play a 2, drop 20k, draw 2, or if it's the backside of the leader, play a 2, drop 20k, draw 1, without paying any energy for that. Then you have your energy up for counterplay. So the big one for red obviously being Denial of Hope. That is a super cool strategy in my opinion. I would probably experiment with it a lot more, honestly. I'm kind of turned off by the fact that it is Saiyans only, kind of limits deck building, but there's still a lot of good tools and options you can play, and thank goodness they stopped restricting these types of leaders to what extra cards you can play. Thank goodness they allow you to play whatever extra cards you want to play. But like I said, I think Shenron in the format really does limit the scope of this deck. So with this being said, guys, rounding out this top cut, it really does appear that over the past few weeks, Shenron ramp, Purunga ramp, and Vegeta are now the decks to beat. So going into nationals, you know, these are the things you want to keep in mind, that these are the decks you really want to try and beat. And what beats these types of decks? Well, you have Janemba sometimes having a good shot. It's really, really tough to beat the ramp variants though, because all the boss monsters in that one turn, it's really hard to deal with. The main thing you want to do against these types of decks is play aggro. So you've got a few options here, actually. A lot of people in this game will tell you aggro is dead, but it really isn't. You got Broly U6, you've got Kaba U6, you got the new Broly Ape variants that can really pop off in like turn 3, turn 4, depending which variant you're playing. You've got Gogeta BR, which can go aggro with like 1-drops. You've got Red Green Gogeta BR, which can go aggro with a rival. You've got Clash Coup, which can go aggro with a rival. You have a lot of pretty solid aggro decks, and that's really what you want to play if you're aiming to beat Shenron, which I believe is the current deck to beat right now. But of course, you want to be well-rounded as possible in being able to beat the other decks in the format. So the big 3 or big 4 I've been referring to in the past few weeks have been Shenron, U6, Toa, and Janemba. That may have shifted here a little bit. I mean, Yellow Broly might be coming back into the top. You know, it started off with Marcus Cantarsi, my team captain, winning San Diego with it, with the Height of Mastery variant. Then we saw a Broly U6 win, and now we've got Broly Apes really popping up back in the scene. So the big 4 may have changed. I think it's Shenron, Toa, Janemba, and then whatever flavor of Broly you might want to see. And that could be a lot of different flavors, honestly. Like I said, U6, Apes, or Height of Mastery Victory Strike with Swap Engine. That can be a lot of different stuff there. Red, I think, is like a rogue outlier that can do very, very well. It's got a lot of good matchups, specifically in my opinion against Toa and Broly variants. A little bit rough against Janemba, a little bit rough against Shenron. But like I said, guys, I think aggro is the play going forward. But let me know what you guys think about the format in the comments below. Really interested to know what you guys are thinking. What do you think, guys, about my thoughts of the format? Do you think I'm right? Do you think I'm wrong? Let me know. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys all for participating in the events. You know, we need you guys to keep playing these events so that we can keep growing the game. And it's a beautiful thing to see that we are approaching nationals. We got a lot of competitive stuff going on. So thank you guys again, and I'll see you guys next time.